Okay, we're live. I just wanted to come back for a quick stream because, well, I had some time today. So this is where we left off in the last stream, and I've just had an idea. So I thought I'd try that now. So looking at this, I'm gonna hide anything that isn't the underlying, you know, anatomy. And there's a couple of things I'd like to do here because some of this is pretty low resolution, right? I want to subdivide this maybe once. So it's a little bit smoother. Can we do another one? Probably too much. Okay. So yeah, it does too. So that's, I just want it a little bit smoother. And I also, just going back down here, maybe not have so much of this detail here. And you'll see why I've done this in a second. Go back to subtool, going to our skin. We can store this as a morph target. So that means that whatever we've sculpted, it's just stored here for morphing. And you'll see what that can do. So while this is stored, I can click subtool and use project all, just the default one. Just make this 0 and click project all. See what that does. That should wrap the entire geometry very tightly to the anatomy model we have underneath. And it's going to be pretty rubbish when that happens. But that's okay because I'm trying to show you a little shortcut of how we can get the detail from a muscle and bone geometry without having to delineate those lines again when we lose them. So yeah, so that's, if I show you go solo, it pretty much just wraps it entirely to that, and where there's like creases, it doesn't really work, but that's okay. And now if I go to the morph target and click switch, I get my original model back. But if I take the morph brush and say I want to morph this part, so I have my intensity set to 1, but if I went say something like 20, I think the default would be 25. You will see, oh, I don't see anything. That's because, I think that's because solo shouldn't be on. Yeah, so if I do that, you will actually, now if I go solo, see that it's basically morphing back to that whatever we created with the projection. So I'm going to undo that, and yeah, so go switch again. And with the morph select, I'm going back to something like 5, maybe 2, and start to just use that to replace what I've had with that detail wherever I want, but gently, with very low intensity. So, like for example here, I just put a stroke down to smooth out later, but instead I could just slowly get back that detail from underneath geometry. If there's any artifacts that I bring back, I could undo or just smooth those out, no problem. So this will see, so I had a line here before, but because I'm projecting, I get it to look more accurate. And yeah, the crease part needs to be smoothed out. So normally, I don't like smoothing stuff because you lose the geometry. But when you're projecting like this, it's okay to just smooth out the artifacts. So here again. So just going over wherever I feel there's a need. In fact, I could go down to one because it's just lightly getting that detail back. In fact, if I don't like the whole projection, we can try that again. So delete morph target, and yeah, well that's fine. I'll just go to move, and if we try the projection again with something like 0.01 intensity, project all. Oh, sorry, we didn't save the morph target again, so I'll have to do that first. Maybe click escape. Yeah, that's it. So morph target, store the original state, subtool projection, and just remove solo for now, and click transparent so I can see, and I just try that. Let me see, is that better or worse? I think it's worse, so I'll do that. 0.025. It is taking some time, but nah, did that do anything? No, it didn't. Okay, let's just go back to default 0.02, 0, and project all. Yeah, I thought we could get just a slightly better result by tweaking these values, but that's okay. I'll show you another trick within the morph target menu once this is done. So what this workflow essentially replaces is like instead of going into transparent mode and trying to find some of these cuts, the muscle definition, we just can simply use the muscle definition that we have from the anatomy model, and then when you switch this, in fact, while you're here, just change that morph number so it comes out a little bit. Say, let's see what that does. All right, if you switch it, and then basically if you go all the way to the end, that's the maximum morphing. But if you come down a little bit, say just about there, say that's the maximum amount of morphing we want. We can stop there, right? So that's what we got, and that's the other thing. Just to show that we can do that as well. But yeah, I'm gonna undo that as we don't want that. So switch, and then to switch, and then no switch. So going back to the morph brush, we'll do just get the detail back where we need. So the belly, this part here, and then just dab it a little bit with the smooth brush. So those harsh detail is gone, but you still have quite a lot of that bony details. Now you see it here even better. So you get that little crease and that crease there. If it's too harsh, you just smooth it out. This tricep, yeah, because it was coming out too far out. So now I can make it so it just conforms to the musculature underneath. That didn't go really well, so smooth that out. So there was a little separation there for this muscle. So there's that, and then just don't be too hard with the smoothing. I'm just tapping it and then leaving the shift when I draw a smooth stroke. Same here. So that means that I still get quite a lot of detail that stays, but it'll be a lot smoother than before. And once we have that definition, we can just go in with the clay build-up brush and yeah, keep sculpting. So let's see what's here. This side. So as you can see, that brings back a lot of the detail, and it'll be super cool to do it here. Let's see what we get. That's really good because now if I smooth this, So just move this. I got so much of that detail of those tendons without any sculpting, because we already sculpted it, so why not use that detail instead of guessing. The bony bit and the separation there, here, and now you got that little ridge. And there it is, you see. So that a definition that allows me to just round it with clay buildup later on. Let's see what we got here. So there's two muscles for the neck coming this way. And when I smooth it carefully, I get that definition. Maybe I can go a little bit harsh on this part, so it's more smooth there. So that's the hip. And here as well, you can get a nice crease, just like that. Soften it slightly. And the quadriceps. So the artifact. Let's go a little gentle on this. Into one. Now the knee doesn't have a great deal of detail when we made it. I mean, we got this muscle, but there should be a little bit more happening. But that's fine, we'll sculpt that detail when we come to it. So strategically, I'm just keeping some of the detail and smooth out the others. That should sort that out. This area could be just smoothed out. So slightly larger brush. Let's see what we can get here. None of that is useful, but what's on here? Yeah, that little crease is useful. Smooth out this bit. What's here? So there's that bone. Well, that's another bone there. So you can see how much of this we're getting for free. Well, it's not exactly free. We had to work a lot to get the anatomy in the first place. So the hind legs. That's not really helping that much, but so where it does that, we just go with damn standard. So again here, and also what you could do is with these ones, you don't have to necessarily do just this one morph target. So if you just delete this, let's say, and I'm going to select just this area, and I'll try another, say, project or just this area. And if it's bad like that, we could go here and say, go back to the low res. Oh, actually, these veins are not even in the right place. Is that why? So let's move this guy. Oops. So invert the mask and it should be there. I'll keep it low res because I think it will like it better when it's low on this occasion. And it's just the projection, I think, takes longer if it's high res. And maybe even use the inflate to close that gap. Topological, make it like that. Okay, now it looks very knuckle-like. So let's go back to our skin. Now project. Did we save the morph target? Store morph target. Subtool and project. Didn't do a great job with the bottom part. Blur is 10. Distance might be too much. 0.005. No. Mm, nope. Pretty sure it's just about the distance. 0.1. 0.15. So that's too much. So we need to find the sweet spot. 0.015. Is that better than before? We can work with this. I just want to see if I can get a better result. Mm, yeah, let's go with it. So, morph target, switch, and morph brush, low intensity, and just gently run over. And then smooth out. See how that's looking. If that's not working, just get a standard brush, and where you have this light detail, just accentuate it. At least we got the placement of it. The rest we can do like this. So really, I try a combination of things to improve my workflow and get results a lot faster. Sometimes it's just best to stick to traditional ways. This one's gonna need a lot of work. Okay, let's go back to morph again. And that's good. We got this little detail. So very subtle, but we are getting quite a bit of help from morph. Like that plane there, right there. That's pretty good. And if I unmask, now it's all gone. So now I can say lasso this region. Sorry, and mask. So we only have this, and delete mob target and project all. It should look crappy, but that's okay because still pretty decent, I'd say. And now morph target. We didn't store. That's a shame. Store first, then project. Let's try that again. 0.025. Got a lot of this right. Few artifacts there. Don't mind that. Okay, let's proceed. So morph target, switch, and with morph brush, that is really nice. Very subtle. And we can just click Alt to go the other way. So just where it does that, if we do Alt, it does the reverse of it. So let's try it. That's, and then you smooth it, you get a nice cut. And for the face, let's just get some of those zygomatic and all of this detail back, because we can then smooth it out, and then we'll end up with some nice little detail. So yeah, let's do this, and then we'll make the face look better because it looks pretty ugly. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of things. This angle here, we're going to bring him out, and should be somewhat like that. And just go in different angles to fix the face. First of all, just lightly smooth out this area, and then from this angle we can tell. Here's my draw. Let's do 85 on that perspective, and I think I want it slightly down there. Maybe pull out like that. The nose could go in slightly, and also this part just in, so you see that curve happening. It goes out there and then comes in, so up and then in, and then it goes there. And then now is a good time to bring back our clay build-up, and say we do go like this, just gently across, and start to close up that harsh changes. And then move to adjust this angle, smooth out the artifacts. So from this angle, that looks good. The muzzle nozzle. Maybe the cheek could come out here. And another plane is this here. There is something not right about this side. With the move, let's bring that slightly down. And this forehead needs to fall back slightly there. So if you take the trim dynamic and yeah, that's it's just the our muscles are just too thick there. They should have been flattened. Which you can do. Ah, I never read apologize that bit, so I'll have to fix that some other time. Just make sure that it all goes in a bit. And keep that eye out. It's just so I can see where the detail of this ends. So the eye portion, this needs to be a little bit narrowed. And same thing, the muscles will have to be adjusted. So now if I go and see transparent mode, better. Okay, just gonna fill this flatten this area, just a tiny bit of smooth, not much, just a little bit. Now what it also says is that we have to bring his eyes a little bit forward. Let me check my reference quickly. Let's put some form detail in here. So that's how the lid comes down, goes in this direction. Then this do a cut like that so we can see it better. And then it goes. Okay, there's one that goes there. Like that. And this one needs to be covered up. And then the plane change happens right under here. Front. So that generally adds a bit of form there that we'll keep refining. By the way, I think we're still in dynamic mode, so if we make a lot of changes, we can readjust the topology. It looks a little bit better, but I think there's still a lot of work to do on the face. So mainly we got that muscle here is very important, so we got that showing. And that's another important separation. So we got the eyelids. This is too far back, so let me cut that off. Do that instead. And obviously this is, we don't need that, so smooth it and clay build up and dig it in. There we have our temporary eye ball, which I'm going to, oh, that's in the right spot. So what was this? Ah, that's it, okay. And that looks better with the eye. Also Z plugin, and let's mirror this. Mirror, subtool master and mirror. Okay, running mesh. Really? Oh, cancel, cancel, cancel. I was on the wrong one. C plugin, mirror. Okay, quickly save. So yeah, slowly but surely the face is getting its shape. And once we have all the major forms and face and the pause is going to take a while, but the rest of it have already got a lot of major forms. That's usually time to retopologize when we have all that before we go into secondary details. I'm also going to adjust this chest because those muscles are all wrong because I made a few changes and they ended up like that. Better use elastic for this. Touch of smooth. Essentially, they need to come and join down to go in there where the bone is. It's a little bit ugly, but we'll shape it with the move topological as best as we can. Just a tad smoother. And now pull it a little bit here. Make sure that this joins to that imaginary tendon that's going to be in the middle. That's it, that's a little bit better. Right, coming back here, we can looking alright, so not too trim dynamic might do it. So got that. The brow could be a little bit lower, so I'm gonna just do that. That. Okay. So from here, it has to be much more rounder. And so could move this a little bit back, not much, but just gonna define the mouth shape a little bit. Think we need to bring the muzzle a little bit in this direction. And for this one, so here the nose goes a little bit in that direction. Then that gives us a new plane, which I think it ends over there. And more clay buildup. dynamic, trim it, trim some of this part, and maybe even go like this so the crease comes a lot closer and the nose starts to look more defined. This one goes a bit like that. Okay, that's progress for sure. So now I'm going to look at the ear in more detail. So A, this needs to be a little bit this way, closer, and we could give a cut here. Usually there's a cut, I think, on both sides. And clay build up, or in fact go standard to give that definition around the edges. Yeah, with every bit of detail that we add, you will start to see some really good looking likeness coming, or a generic lion at least, that you might have seen in documentaries. But as we get closer to the look dev phase, we'll start and think about how to make this like a very specific line. In our case, I'm aiming for Scarface, so there's a very unique scar that's on the eye. But maybe when it comes down to it, we'll look at multiple references and do something our own, but at the same time, it needs to be, it needs to have a lot of character. So it's not just a lion, but a lion with a story. So we'll see how that transpires. Just thinking of that muscle separation. So we have this. This is still what I consider to be primary forms. We're not really getting into secondary detail. I don't do that until I've retopologized my model. So, and all of these, I'm thinking of the anatomy because that will again help me with retopology. The edge flow the muscle flow plays a lot into the edge flow. need a reference to see how this looks from this angle. And also, actually, I forgot I've charged my iPad. I didn't have it in the last stream because it wasn't charged. Since I have it, I'm going to put my the Lion app up on the other screen, on my iPad rather, because then I can look at it in different angles. Right. Okay, so we want to go slightly that way. Bring it a little bit closer here, then wider there. With trim dynamic, I'm going to flatten this whole thing. And now we'll shape this so he doesn't look so weird. So the mouth comes like that, and we can use dam standard to draw a little crease that can go all the way up, right? So more line like, and trim dynamic to separate it further, and we can bring the, sorry, let's mask off this bit. I don't want it to be fully closed because we want to create a nicer mouth bag later. So in fact, I normally with the mouth bag as well, I tend to just do that when it during the retopology. So when I get to retopologize this part, I'll just push a mouth bag in and then sculpt it later. So that's something I don't do on this at this stage of the sculpt. But just leave a little bit of gap so we have something to push back into the model. Right, overall the nose needs to be narrower than I originally thought. So let's use the move brush to flatten him here. And so there's not, the nostrils are obviously not going to be that much. So let's just smooth this area and use the clay build-up to, because they're really like slits. And yeah, fill up that. And also this bit. So it's just, yeah, about that point. Now I'm going to trim dynamic as well to flatten it out, and then we'll dig some lines in with the dam standard to finally get our nose. So with the nose and the mouth shape, you know, we feel like got a bit of a lion likeness, and we can address some of the other parts of the body and then come back. I don't like to spend too long on one part of the model. I've heard many artists say that is the case with them. It can be tiring to the eyes if you're just looking at one part of the model for too long, and fatigue will kick in. I'm already feeling a little bit of boredom with the whole area. So very soon I've got to move away from this. Alright, so what did I do there? And there. So that's looking good from that angle. Just need to get that muzzle detail out so it's more rounded in that area. So yeah, there you see. That looks good from perspective. Just need to work a little bit more on that nostril slit and get the shape right. I'm going to delineate exactly where the plane chain happens. So there's that there, and then we are turning there. Now I can try and get that shape that I was after. Okay, that reads so much better. Just trim dynamic to get rid of any harsh shapes. So usually we use a combination of clay buildup and trim dynamic, and try to never use the smooth until you're unless you're actually trying to get rid of detail. If you're trying to like add and remove forms, you should do it just with clay buildup and trim dynamic as much as possible. And you can see how it's eventually blends off very nicely. Lots of work still around the eye, but I'll see. I might have to get our good old sculptress at some point. Yeah, not a lot you can get from a dynameshed topology. And there's this that I would like to move the cheekbone slightly in. The zygomatic is a little too far out, in my opinion. So, yeah, that's more of the curve. And this part of the eye is too far in, so I have to bring that one out. Just carefully. And going back to clay buildup, and just build some form around this. So I'm sculpting on the right, but I'm looking at the left because from this angle I should be able to see a little bit of protrusion coming on the top of the eyelid, and then it flattens out a little bit inward as it gets to the zygomatic arch, zygomatic bone rather. So the arch just joins into that bone, and you can see that little plane change happening here. So yeah, I'm constantly looking for those plane changes, because when I look at my reference and it's lit in a certain way, it is those changes that we see. And I also see that there's a bow that happens with this muscle here, right? So the curvature is a little bit more mass. So again, I'm sculpting on the right, but I'm looking at what it's doing to the left of the face. And you see that little change. So I want that, and then I want to go a little bit in here So, so it comes out like that and then goes back in a little bit because that's how I get to see the nose. So again, I'm going to put a lot around this. So this is where the nose comes out the most. And so just checking from the front, no damage done. From this angle, I always like to check from this angle. It does tell you so much. Maybe I lost a little bit of roundness around the cheek. So going this way might help. Yeah, that looks good. So much better. I can see all the major forms in my reference now showing up on the dude. I'm getting that checkered cross hashing effect here because I kind of went both ways. I don't like to do that, but it's okay in this case, I think, especially that part of the face. And the only other thing is I feel like it's frowning a bit, so I'm gonna soften off this crease here. Uh, what's it doing there? Just moved off. Trim dynamic. Yeah, always like to have earlier I've had this part a little bit exaggerated just so I could see it without too much effort on my eyes. But eventually we will be doing this for many different areas of the body as well. We'll just smooth it out, but with the clay build-up brush. So when you do that, there's subtly you still have that detail. So if I lose too much, I can always come back with the damp standard and then go back to building up. And you can also get the same detail doing this. Just add a strip and then go across. And then add a strip again just under, go across to make it rounder. So yeah, I mean that looks pretty decent. And generally here there's detail. like that needs to protrude a bit. I went too far, so let's smooth out and try again. And then we can slowly blend it. Yeah, I like it so far. Where this is going, still a long way to go, but it looks a bit more like a lion than in the last stream, and that's good enough. And we got plenty of detail here, which we need to round off and make it a bit more subtle and not so obvious. So that will blend it out a little bit. So where you think that that crease is too deep, you can do just this, like go across, so it sort of blends those two together and reduces the depth of the crease. And that feels like there's skin on top of those muscles. So that's the muscle here. Just going over those muscles so it feels like there's skin on top of it. Like that crease there, just an indication that that's where the muscle ends. So when you go across like that, it just creates that little roundedness. Helps, especially these joints. So it's starting to get a little late, so I will stop here and maybe focus on the pause in the next stream. And when I feel like, again, I'm not too bothered about the brush strokes because I will lose a lot of those, and I mean there are ways we can lose it. When you subdivide a retopologized mesh, you just get your primary details and get rid of any of the brush strokes, and you have a smooth model to work on for the secondary details like veins and that sort of thing, wrinkles maybe in some areas. Just going to put some indication of neck muscles for next stream. Yeah, so that is, if I just show you where we started, so the undo history, 2,835 strokes. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. He's hanging. But hey, let me know in the comments when you get to watch this stream. What do you think? And here we go. That's where we started this today, and that's where we are now. So I'm just looking at the face, but it's really good progress, I think. And let me know what you thought about the morphing technique, using projection and morph with low intensity. Um, to be fair, we did get most of the details we want from the unified skin itself. Um, but this is just, I think, a neater way and probably something I should have done first thing. But yeah, so that's kind of where we got. There's definitely a lot more the realism that we got from the side and even three quarters. We will work on the front view more as we do the ears and try and get this angle right as well. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with where it's headed, and I will see you in the next stream to get this guy to a realistic level before we start the retopology. Thank you for today. I shall see you all very soon with another stream. Goodbye.